Buonasera, welcome back to our Italian for Beginners. This is lesson 28, lezione 28. Today we're going to talk not in depth, but we're going to talk a little bit about health problems or things that can happen when you are in Italy on holiday in different seasons. Obviously, certain things can happen only in certain seasons and others in all seasons. So lucky. So these are, as I said, very, very simple sentences, the description that you can tell a person at a pharmacy or at A&E. We are also going to learn how to say these places. So let's share. As I said, it really is a list of ailments or aches or accidents really that can happen. So you don't have to think too much about all this or how to explain it. As I said, this is a description of symptoms, for example, or other things that are obvious. As I said, especially if you've had an accident, if you fell, for example, that's what I mean. So, la salute is health. There are some other words that look like salute, like health, but we're not going to mention those ones. Salute is also what we say when we are um, having a toast. You say salute or alla salute, to your health. So it's a wish for health to be good. Now, so when we are in Italy, and hopefully we will never, or you will never need, or nobody will ever need to go to any doctors or pharmacy or even worse, the A&E. However, if you do have some of these things, some lighter than others or some more serious than others, you can, if you don't have anything with you, you can go to a pharmacy. That's the best bet, really. Go to a pharmacy and they can help you there. So the pharmacy would be La Farmacia, and they're very knowledgeable normally, so you can go and ask them, so show them if it's something you can show or tell them, and then they will give you something that can help you. So this, as I said, if you are a beginner and you don't have a very large vocabulary, you can just describe your symptoms, really. Some are quite straightforward. If La Farmacia is not enough and instead you have something a little bit more serious, you end up in A&E, which is called Pronto Soccorso. Il pronto soccorso. Pronto, remember, is ready. Soccorso is rescue. So you've been ready to rescue you. So this is the A&E and Farmacia pharmacy. So let's see some of the most common ailments that you can have, and maybe you just want to feel a little bit better if you don't have anything with you. And so let's start with these simple things or more common things. So you can have a cold, a cough, a fever, or a blocked nose. Remember that in Italian, you don't have a cold, a cough, a fever. You have the cold, the cough, the fever. So we're going to use verb avere, to have, like in English. So you can say ho il raffreddore, I have a cold. Ho la tosse, I have a cough. Ho la febbre, I have a fever. Ho il naso tappato, I have a blocked nose. And then other things, again, look at this, you're only using the verb avere, which is one of the very important verbs. So at this point, you would you know it. Also, remember that the most common verbs avere, essere, they are those ones that will give you the possibility to say a lot of things very simply, but very, very useful, like they are in English language. So something else that you can have whilst in Italy, you can have headache or stomach ache or belly ache or toothache or earache. So in this case, again with the verb avere, to have, you can say ho mal di testa, headache. So male, mal comes from male, which is ill or unwell. So mal di testa is ill of the head, literally. You can say ho mal di stomaco. So you are repeating this one. You conjugate the verb. I'm using I have, using first person. Ho mal di testa, headache, mal di stomaco, stomachache, mal di pancia, which is more like a tummy ache, mal di denti, which is toothache, mal d'orecchi, earache, orecchi plural if both of them are hurting or aching, otherwise orecchio if it's just one. And then again, some other more common ailments that can happen. So this obviously, as we said, it can happen, especially when traveling and there are all those germs around in airports and on the plane, then it's quite easy to get a cold. Other things can happen if you've maybe if right, obviously toothache, you never know when there's always a surprise, or normally a surprise. Always happens when you really don't need it. Um, this one instead, the next one is probably something that can happen if maybe when it's sunnier, not necessarily. For example, if you have touched um, plant or something else that didn't that caused an irritation to your skin. So this is what we say. Again, with the verb avere, to have, you can say ho un'irritazione alla pelle, an irritation to the skin. Or another way of saying exactly the same thing, ho la pelle irritata. I have an irritated skin. So that's when you have like a rash, for example, on the skin. So it's an irritation or irritated skin. And then again, here we have the verb avere, to have, and I'm using again the first person singular. If you have been stung by an insect, then again, you have two different ways, two different options of saying it. The easier one is this one with the verb to have, or una puntura di. Puntura is the word for injection, is a puncture actually, or a sting, if we are talking, if we are using proper English. This is not a fantastic way of saying it, but it's the easiest way of saying it. And it is good enough, really. And then again, we are picturing being in a pharmacy, and you can always show if there are things that can be shown to the person at the pharmacy. Another way of saying this is sono stato. It depends if it's masculine or feminine. I always put the masculine and feminine options. Sono stato punto, I have been stung, o sono stata punta da, by, and then the insects. Normally, the insects that bite, if you have seen it, could be un ape, a bee, una vespa, a wasp. And if it's something else, then you can always Google it. But normally, these are the ones that especially in summer, spring, summer, you would be stung by one of these. Other things that can be useful to know when you're on holiday if you need, especially if it becomes, it starts spoiling your holiday, so you want to do something about it. Maybe you have your no, I can't think of can't think of it in English. Your head is spinning. So you can say, again, two options. You can say o capogiro, literally the head spin, or you can say mi gira la testa. In fact, this again is the verb. So I put in green all the verbs that you're using. Most of them so far we've seen is verbo essere. So again, o capogiro is the easiest option, or otherwise you can say mi gira la testa. This is when you're feeling dizzy or when your head is spinning. Other things, for example, this could be caused by anything really. So a specific way of saying that something is aching or hurting, yeah, aching, let's say, you have this one, mi fa, if whatever is hurting is singular, or mi fanno, if what is hurting is plural. Let's see some examples. So you can say mi fa. Here we're using the verb fare. Something is making you ill. Something is making you unwell. Mi fa male la schiena. So I have backache. La schiena is the back. Mi fa male la testa. I have headache. We've seen earlier a different way to say it, which is easier, the one that we saw earlier. Can say mi fa male l'orecchio. My ear is hurting or aching. Mi fa male il piede. My foot is hurting or aching. Again, there are two different ways really. So this is a little bit more complicated, the construction of the sentence. Instead, here, remember we said you can just use the verb to have, avere, followed by avere mal di, followed by whatever is aching or hurting. So, and this one, so these ones are already, the last one that we've seen is already conjugated. And then we have the verb farsi male, which is the verb fare, reflexive. So you have hurt yourself, not on purpose, normally. So don't, from the grammar point of view, remember the reflexive verbs are not just things, those verbs, they indicate verbs that of actions that you have done to yourself, are certainly not necessarily deliberately. So farsi male is again to make yourself unwell, make yourself ill. So conjugated in the past tense, because normally, so this is when it has happened already, then you have to say, I hurt my hand, I hurt my foot, etc. This one is when they are hurting. I have backache or my back is hurting. This one is when you have hurt, like physically, like yesterday or earlier. So, mi sono fatto male o mi sono fatta male alla mano. So, I hurt myself on the hand. This is the literal translation. Can you see, in fact, the way I've written it here in green, farsi male a. So this is the preposition that you need, and then you attach the, sorry, the article that you need. Probably if you're hurting, the last thing you're thinking about is, let me see which article I'm going to put. Which article do I need in front of mano or piede? So it's more important to maybe know the most important words, and if you don't get the article correct, it doesn't, it's probably not a big problem. However, from the grammar point of view, as we are here talking about grammar as well, so you are conjugating this reflexive verb and using which is completed by this preposition as well. So when you conjugate it, you're going to say mi sono fatto male a, in this case, alla mano, which is feminine, al piede, which is masculine, alle ginocchia, which are feminine plural. So these are some examples. So this is when you hurt this hand and foot. If the damage is a little bit more serious, which does happen, then maybe you can unfortunately break a bone. In this case, you would say mi sono rotto, masculine, o rotta, feminine, il braccio, o mi sono rotto la gamba, I broke a leg, mi sono rotto la caviglia, I broke an ankle, mi sono rotto il polso, which is the wrist, I did that. So hence the idea of covering all this just now. And then if I say, maybe I'll tell you quickly about my experience, because I don't have, if this is the very first time that I had to go to a pronto soccorso in Italy. So I can give you an idea of what you can expect. So when you break something, and again, we have a reflexive verb, the verb is rompersi, to break oneself. So when we break something, they are going to put il gesso, which is this gesso. Gesso is the word for chalk as well, the material, the white powdery material, il gesso. So that's what they're going to, yes, mettere il gesso is to put the gesso on, the cast on. And then something else that unfortunately can happen. And in fact, that's what I wanted to add. I don't think I did add it in the end. No, I didn't. So if you're lucky and your bones are not broken, they are maybe just spraying. So maybe you are going to say, oh, no, sì, but mi sono, I'm already slow, this is even, mi sono slogato o slogata. This when you strain instead, the same, a wrist, an ankle, so it's not broken. This is verbo slogare, slogare. So going to the next one is svenire. Svenire is to lose your senses, so to faint. Again, in the past, if you say, if, for example, you fainted and then you want to double check that you're okay, you can say sono svenuto or svenuta for female. And then things that can happen mainly in summer. Ho preso un colpo di sole, a sunstroke. So this is verbo prendere, to take, to catch. Un colpo di sole, like a strike from the sun. O mi sono bruciato al sole, I burned myself. Verbo bruciare o bruciarsi. And by the way, I have to say something about this. As I said, I said before, I am in Sardinia, and so it's quite warm. In fact, very hot in summer, and there are quite a few tourists from Northern Europe, without mentioning nationalities. Anyway, il pronto soccorso in summer has many visitors which are burnt from head to toe because they don't realize that the sun is actually quite hot in here. And there are some very beautiful beaches. However, unless you are other Italian or you have been um, catching the sun, not catching sunbathing, or you are for a long time you have spent in Italy or in Sardinia enough time that you have a good suntan, or you have a very powerful lotion. You really should not even spend half an hour on these beautiful beaches with white sand, because half an hour is enough to burn. Yes. So yes, this is the people al pronto soccorso in Sardinia on the coast, normally not on the not necessarily on the center. They do get a lot of tourists which are completely burned. I do remember seeing. We did tell them because I think they started glowing. We were in this beautiful beach where the sun is very, very strong. And if you can go there if it's at the beginning of the summer and you've never been to the beach, you've never done any sunbathing yet. So you're like, if you remember, bianco come una mozzarella, wise like a mozzarella. And it is to avoid. And I remember this group of, I don't know if they were English or Germans, but they started being like pink, reddish, and then they were just glowing. They were just glowing. They didn't even bring an umbrella. So we did tell them, but I don't know. I'm sure they did know the day after. They knew it was not a good idea. Uh, anyway, so this is what happens. What will definitely happen if you go, um, if you know, spend hours on the beach and without having any protection, or if you haven't got a sun tan already, or if you have a darker skin, you can still burn yourself. But so it's better to do it gradually, says the person who always cook herself really on the beach. Um, and by the way, as we're talking about this, um, Italians don't wear normally don't really wear much sun lotion protection. You get maybe olive oil, which actually helps with the protection. But you don't see, for children, maybe you see protection 50. The first time I saw protection 50 was in Australia. Otherwise, protection 2, they will do, or nothing. Uh, so other things that hopefully will never happen, but if they do, it's a good idea to know what you need to say. Sono caduto or sono caduta, I fell. And then we'll see what the damage was. In general, also, you can use the verb for this is cadere. In general, if you want to say that you're not feeling well, you're feeling ill, you're feeling unwell, you can use the verb sentire, reflexive, sentirsi male, to feel unwell. So, mi sento male, I am feeling ill. Mi sono sentito male, past tense, I felt ill, or I was feeling ill or unwell. So we have the present tense and the past tense. Again, if you need to explain to somebody, pharmacy again, farmacia or pronto soccorso. Let's see what kind of advice they could give you at the pharmacy or A&E. So they could tell you to prendere un'aspirina, this to take an aspirin, un antidolorifico, which is a painkiller, and you'll have the choice, normally the option between antidolorifico in pasticche, tablets, or in polvere, sachet. they may advise you to mettere una crema, to put a cream on, a lotion. Well, a cream depends. Una pomata, which is medicated lotion or cream, o mettere il ghiaccio. Il ghiaccio is ice. For example, if you have sprained wrist or ankle or whatever else. Or also, um, I don't know, inflammation. I'm not a doctor. They could tell you the riposare, rest. They could advise you to mangiare in bianco. Mangiare in bianco, especially if you've had problems with the stomach. Mangiare in bianco, which is, sounds a little bit strange, to eat in white. It doesn't mean that you have to dress yourself with white colors. Mangiare in bianco, it means that you have to eat something very, very plain food. So normally you think rice, plain rice. Like dogs, when they are unwell, you give them plain rice, really. And then if you have, well, it depends, it could be maybe again problems with if you pull a muscle again, or you have a cut as well, you may need to fasciare con una benda o garza. Fasciare is to bandage. In fact, here benda is like a bandage. A garza is just a similar thing. So it is, as I said, it is a list of things that you can say if you go to the pharmacy, la farmacia. Some things are not very serious. The others mainly really il pronto soccorso if you have broken something, um, if you are badly burned, but really badly, you also maybe I don't know, fainted, or there is some other symptoms there. Um, and then all the other things really they are more for pharmacy. Right. So I was going to say briefly, so we don't fall asleep, we don't make the video too long. That I've had the opportunity to experience il pronto soccorso in Sardegna, which is okay, like wasn't bad. So I waited about five hours. In fact, I spent altogether 5 hours between the wait. The wait is sala d'attesa. Let me write it down actually. Let me just go back quickly. I'm going to add a couple of words here so you have them in writing. So the waiting in pronto soccorso will be in sala d'attesa. And then there is obviously doctor, they have a look and see what the problem is. And if you need, you're going to do le lastre o that's what I've done. Quindi le lastre o I raggi X, X-rays. So these are just the same things. Obviously, it's easier to remember X-rays because that's how you say it in English. However, you have to remember the words in Italian. I raggi X. Le lastre is just another word for it. And then, as I said, you do have I dottori mettono il gesso. Let's see, that was the gesso, the cast. And then normally, oh, well, they may give you an appointment if you're still in Italy. Otherwise, when you come back you go back to your country, then you'll continue your care when you leave Italy. Something that is useful to, I'm sure everybody, many people or most people when they travel, they do have insurance. So when you are at a reception normally, or at some point, they will ask you if you are esente. If you are a foreigner, they won't even ask you if you are esente. Esente means do you pay for the care or not? in general, Italians, depending on the, for example, according to age or other things, you can either not pay at all, esente is exempt, or just pay a little bit, which is called il ticket. So, pagare il ticket, exactly this word, um, is to pay a fee basically when you're using the health service, il servizio sanitario, yeah, the health service. So you need to pagare il ticket, which is done at the hospital, at the A&E as well, it can be done. Um, what else? In general, I have to say that doctors are quite knowledgeable, and I have to say that they have done in my case a very good job because it was a very bad fracture. So the word for fracture, I'm not gonna go back there. The word for fracture is frattura, double T, frattura. So this is why the moment I'm not doing too much gesticulation, I'm just doing it with one hand and writing even slower. Um, right, so this is, as I said, this is mainly a list of symptoms or descriptions of illnesses or aches or ailments that you could have when you are on holiday. Hopefully not, but it can happen. And obviously we do know that there is Google for everything. However, if your aim, your objective is to learn Italian, then it is a good um, thing to do is also to know these things. They don't happen very often. Luckily, they don't even happen in our own language in our country. But if they do happen and you are in Italy, at least you are half prepared for what can happen. I have had actually a couple of my students in the last few years. One did break a wrist, and another one fainted and ended up in pronto soccorso first, and then had different tests when they were in Italy. So yes, you never know. And apparently they actually they had a good experience in the hospital. Um, right, so as I said, there's only a very, very brief list, very uh, straightforward description of ailments, and for now that will do. And then again, when you your knowledge of the language is broader, then you can explain a little bit more. You can use other your knowledge in this context as well. So like other topics, there is no point sometimes in trying learning unless you have a specific health condition that you know already of or about, then you prepare yourself. And again, feel free to write a comment if you want, a request to talk a bit more about specific health conditions. I'm not a doctor again, but I can help finding the correct words. If you do use already, you have prepared already a list of the things that you are worried about when it comes to health and you're on holiday. Again, you can put them in a comment. I'll have a look and answer in the comments if it is a short answer, or otherwise I can always upload another video. Right, so I will leave you here. This was uh, and not an unfortunate and a little bit not super exciting lesson 28, lezione 28. So hopefully you will never need what we have covered in this lesson. And I will see you on our next lesson, which will be 29, 29, very soon. Bye bye. Ciao.